Then time came and I became father of a daughter. And she was now taking care of my daughter. Soft chuckle, full of warmth. My little one, just 2 years old. Restless, curious, a tiny whirlwind of energy. And right behind her, always watching, always protecting, was Grandma. "Slow down, my little bird. You'll fall," she would say, gently holding my daughter's hand. And my daughter? She never stopped moving, never stopped exploring, and Grandma never stopped following. When she finally managed to catch my daughter, she would scoop her up and sit down. She would tell her stories, the same old stories she once told me, the same lullabies, the same folk tales, but now they were for her great-granddaughter. I used to listen to those lullabies lying on her lap, and now it was my daughter's turn. She sat there wide-eyed, staring up at the same wrinkled, loving face that once watched over me. Felt like time had come full circle. And then there was my son, 5 years old, coming home from school, his tiny backpack bouncing behind him. And there she was, waiting by the door, not just standing, but waiting, because she knew, the moment he stepped inside, she would hear another story. "Tell me, my son, how was your day?" she would ask, with the same excitement, as if his words were the most precious thing in the world. And maybe to her, they were. I watched her, how she followed my daughter, how she listened to my son, how she cared, not because she had to, but because love never stops. Even when she was tired, even when her body asked her to rest, she still gave everything, because that's what grandmothers do. They don't just raise children, they build generations with love. Now, when I see an old woman holding her grandchild's hand, I pause, because I know what that love feels like, and I know how much I miss it. I still remember that night, a night like any other, yet somehow it has never left me. I was sitting at my desk, my eyes glued to the screen, fingers flying over the keyboard. My mind was buried in deadlines, responsibilities, tasks I thought were more important than anything else at that moment. The world outside had quieted. The hum of the fan, the soft ticking of the clock. These were the only sounds filling the room. Then I heard her. "Son, it's late. You have work in the morning. Sleep now." I unwantedly happened to raise my voice saying, "I need work, Grandma. How can I work if I will not wake up?" "Grandma, I have to finish this." She stood there for a moment. I could feel her presence, the way she lingered at the doorway. Even without looking, I knew she had that soft, knowing smile, the one that carried a lifetime of patience. She didn't insist. She never did. But something about the silence made me uneasy. I turned just for a second. She was still there, watching me with those same eyes. Eyes that had seen me grow, that had watched over me like a guardian through every moment of my life. I wanted to call her back, to say something, to tell her I wasn't angry, just overwhelmed. But I didn't. I let her go, assuming there would always be another night. But that guilt, it stayed with me. Long after she had gone to her room, long after I had finished my work, that moment replayed in my mind. She was never just reminding me to sleep. It was never just about work. It was her way of caring, of making sure I was okay. Just as she always had, since the day I was born. And I had been too absorbed in my world to see it. I didn't go to her room that night. I didn't say sorry. I just turned off my computer, lay in bed, and stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of something I couldn't quite describe. The next morning, she was the same as ever, smiling, gentle, as if nothing had happened. That was her way. She never held on to hurt. She never made me feel guilty. But I remember. I always will. Because sometimes the smallest moments, the simplest words, become the ones we wish we could relive, just to do them right. There are moments in life that feel ordinary when they happen, but later, they become the moments we can never forget. This was one of them. It started with something small, something I never thought would mean anything at all. One afternoon, I casually asked her, "Grandma, do you still have that money I gave you?" I wasn't doubting her, not even for a second. It was just a simple question, a A routine check as I doubted someone else has taken. But the moment I asked, something shifted. Her face changed. A shadow of confusion flickered in her eyes. She looked at me, startled, as if trying to recall something just beyond her grasp. And then she panicked. She began searching it where she placed. Her hands trembled as she opened the drawer. I had never seen her like this before. Her breathing became uneven. I could hear her murmuring to herself to take it out. She had to bend in order to take it out, and due to long standing and taking that box out, she got fully exhausted. I shouldn't have asked. I saw it then, how fragile she had become. Not just physically, but in a way I never imagined. She had always been the strongest, the one who took care of everything, the one who never forgot a single thing. I disturbed her by saying I doubt someone one might have not taken. Then she was searching, desperate to prove it's there. And in that moment I realized it wasn't about the money. It was about trust. She was afraid. Afraid that she had let me down. I stepped forward, placed my hand over hers, stopping her frantic search. "Grandma, it's okay. I trust you." She looked up at me, her breathing still uneven. I smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "It doesn't matter. It's just money." For a moment, she just stared at me. And then, slowly, she calmed down. But something was different. That was the first time I saw her like this. And after that day, things started to change. She became quieter. She still smiled, still asked me if I had eaten, still made sure my clothes were folded properly. But something in her had shifted. I could feel it. I wanted to believe it was just a phase, that she would get better, that this was temporary. But deep down, I knew something had started, something I couldn't stop, and I wasn't ready for what was coming next. If you ever walked into our house on a weekend night, you'd find a scene that never changed. The TV buzzing, the smell of freshly made popcorn in the air, and all of us, kids, cousins, even the grown-ups, gathered in one room. But at the center of it all, like the heart of a spinning wheel, was always Grandma. She never chose to be in charge of movie night. She just was. The best seat in the house belonged to her. A thick cushion tucked behind her back, her shawl wrapped loosely around her shoulders. No matter how chaotic we got, she remained the quiet observer, watching us enjoy the night more than she watched the screen itself. She had this funny way of reacting to movies. She would gasp a second too late, like she was still processing the last scene when the next one had already arrived. And if something really funny happened, oh, that was the best part. Her laughter wasn't loud, but it had this magic to it, this warmth that made you smile even if you didn't find the joke funny. And let's not forget her rules. No spilling popcorn, no changing seats in the middle of the movie, and absolutely no talking when the story got serious. Of course, we broke all of them. And every time, she would shake her head, trying to scold us. But the way her eyes twinkled, she was enjoying it just as much as we were. I didn't realize it back then, but those nights weren't just about watching movies. They were about being together, about the way she pulled us all close without saying a word, about the way she made even the smallest things, like sitting on the floor with a bowl of popcorn, feel like the most important part of our week. I wish I had known how precious those nights were. That one day her seat would be empty, that we'd still have movie nights, but something would be missing, something we could never get back. Because after that, everything started to change. And I wasn't ready for what was coming next. Some moments change everything. You never see them coming. You go about your day, thinking it's just another ordinary morning. You wake up, get dressed, leave for work, not knowing that life, as you knew it, will never be the same again. That day started just like any other. I was at the office, staring at my computer screen, lost in my tasks. The hum of keyboards, the murmur of conversations. It was just another routine day. Then my phone rang. At first, I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. I did, and then my world shifted. "Grandma isn't well. Come fast." My heart pounded. I didn't wait to ask too many questions. I just asked which hospital and rushed there. When I arrived, I saw her lying on the hospital bed, surrounded by doctors. I moved closer, kissed her forehead gently, and asked, "Grandma, what happened?" She smiled. "I'm okay, my son."
Dear viewer, please do not forget to subscribe and press the bell icon.